You ever find yourself confused by what God does? You think you are following His will, but the path that He's taking you on makes no sense at all. I wonder if the disciples were often confused by the choices that Jesus made because they couldn't see the bigger picture. In Mark chapter 1, the disciples came to Jesus when Jesus was praying, and they wanted to bring Him back to Capernaum so that He could continue His preaching. But Jesus said no, because God was guiding Him to go to the nearby villages so that He could preach there also. Today we are looking at chapter 2, and in verse 1 we're told that this takes place a few days later. So a few days after leaving Capernaum, we find Jesus and the disciples entering Capernaum. Weird, right? I think this introduction to chapter 2 is really just setting us up so that we can expect the unexpected. It is challenging us to look beyond the physical actions so that we can see God's bigger picture. Upon Jesus' return, He enters a house and begins to teach to a huge crowd. This was Jesus' hope and dream. He wanted people who sought after Him for what He taught, rather than for what they could get from Him. But there were some in the crowd who wanted to experience Jesus' healing power. There was 4 men in particular who really needed to get to Jesus because their friend was paralyzed. But they couldn't get to Jesus because the crowd was too big. But these friends had a faith that laughed in the face of barriers. These men climbed onto the roof of the house, and they broke a hole in that roof, because back then roofs were really just packed dirt. And then they lowered their friend down towards Jesus. And Jesus' response to this scene is really amazing. He doesn't get mad that the people barge in asking for healing when preaching is His main concern. But we read that Jesus saw their faith. He looked at these men and knew why they were there. He knew that they believed Jesus to be more than just a miracle worker, but their faith showed that they believed that He was a man of God. Jesus looks at the paralyzed man and He says, "Son, your sins are forgiven." Don't you find Jesus' reaction a little bit odd? It appears as though Jesus completely missed the point of the situation. Why would Jesus forgive the sins of a man who came to be cured of a broken back? Jesus responds like this because Jesus sees the bigger picture of God. Jesus knows that this man has more than just physical needs, but his spiritual needs are just as great. Jesus forgives this man, and in doing so, He lets the man know that God is not angry with him. God has not struck him down and ruined his life. Jesus sees the bigger picture of needs in this man's life. And that bigger picture is a picture of freedom. And Jesus knows that true freedom is not a physical issue, but it's a spiritual issue. Oh, and don't worry about the paralyzed man. Jesus did know that He wanted physical healing as well as forgiveness. So as a sign to all the people, especially the Pharisees, Jesus heals the man, and the man walks home with his friends.